The film starts in Brazil, and we see NASA protesters who want to isolate someone named Sandro, and this is a corrupt government official. Sandro is hiding in the government building, and suddenly a masked person appears coming to kill Sandro. Days before this, a team of special forces arrives at Sandro's house, and they search his house to find evidence that Sandro has embezzled money, and indeed they can find some papers proving it. However, Sandro stands with confidence and is not interested, and the special forces arrest him. The two soldiers take Sandro to the interrogation room, and it turns out that they are close friends. Their names are Miguel and Eduardo, and their goal is to fight crime in their country, accusing him of transferring $2 billion to his personal account. But Sandro denies these charges and says, "I will only speak in the presence of a lawyer." Miguel loses his temper and orders him to speak, telling him that the money he had embezzled belonged to people dying in the hospital. No matter how much Miguel and Eduardo are pressured, he does not speak. So Miguel says to him, "How do you sleep at night and the money in your pocket is stolen?" But Sandro does not care about his words and is not affected. And Sandro's lawyer is coming to the place. Miguel and Eduardo cannot complete the investigation. They tell the police chief that they have tried to get any information from him, but he is a smart person, but he will not escape his crimes this time. After that, it turns out that Miguel is divorced, has a daughter from her, and the daughter loves her father very much and is attached to him because he fights crime and cleans the country. Minutes later, his divorcee, whose name is Isabella, appears, and she comes to take her daughter, and Miguel agrees with Isabella to take their daughter and go out with her at the weekend to watch the Brazil match. At the end of the week, Miguel ends his workday, saying goodbye to Eduardo because he is going out with his daughter. After that, he meets Alice and gives her a shirt to the Brazilian national team as a gift to attend the match. So she rejoices and wears it, imagines with her father, says goodbye to her mother, and heads to the stadium. But unfortunately, they get stuck in the crowd. So Miguel decides to get out of the taxi and walk with his daughter until he reaches the stadium. Suddenly, there is a shooting in the place, and Alice takes a stray bullet in her chest. Miguel is shocked, and he quickly carries his daughter to the hospital, and Alice is transported on a stretcher. Miguel can't wait, so he enters the operating room, but it turns out that there are many cases that need care before Alice, and the doctor is unable to do anything but put tissues on her injury. Miguel feels desperate and has nothing to do, and he sees his daughter die in front of his eyes because of the poor possibilities in the hospital. Several hours later, Isabella arrives at the hospital and collapses from screaming and crying when she learns that Alice is gone. On the other hand, Sandro is released from detention and is noted of the charges against him. Miguel tries to figure out who shot his daughter, but Eduardo tells him it's hard to know. Miguel responds that the one who killed his daughter was not the reckless bullet, but healthcare in the country, because Alice did not receive care or attention from doctors, kept bleeding to death, and there was no adequate infrastructure in the hospital for all patients. After that, Miguel decides to give up his position in the police until he recovers from the loss of his daughter. Among the activities he is now doing is running, and he recalls the beautiful times he spent with his daughter. As for Sandro, he appears in a press interview to exonerate himself of the charges against him and says that public health in the city is his top priority, that he will never skimp on health, and that he spends many sums of money from his own money to correct the mistakes of the former governor. At the same time that Sandro is giving this speech, the people outside the palace are demonstrating against him because they want to run for the presidency of the Republic of Brazil, and the people refuse it and do not want to run for him. Miguel appears in the place, and when he tries to get close to the building, he is beaten by the soldiers present. The protesters throw Molotov cocktails at the soldiers, and there is a clash between them. A girl named Nina films what is happening, and security forces throw gas bombs at protesters. Miguel takes a mask to be able to breathe, then attacks the security soldiers with all his strength, and after overcoming a number of them, he takes their weapons and enters the building, and manages to eliminate Sandro's guards, then reaches him and starts beating him without any introductions, because of his corruption, and because he is the cause of his daughter's death, and continues to beat him until he kills him. Several days later, the police are trying to find out the identity of the person who killed Sandro, but the camera recordings do not benefit them, because Miguel was wearing a mask. Some protesters are arrested and interrogated to find out the killer, and Nina was among them, so she is surprised when she sees Miguel present and greets the police officers, because she thought he was the one who assaulted them. Miguel had returned to work again, looking at Nina and remembering her, so he decided to investigate her. She tells him that she has a video on her phone proving that he assaulted police officers, and he agrees with her to get her out of custody in exchange for never mentioning him. Miguel has known from her record that she is skilled at hacking devices, so he decides to use her skills later. On the other hand, Sandro's party begins to look for a new presidential candidate, and after a long discussion between them, a person named Gomez proposes to nominate his son for the position because he has no criminal record. Indeed, Gomez's son begins to film and prepares himself for running, and then Miguel watches the video filmed by Nina, and this proves that Nina is innocent. So Miguel decides to release Nina quickly because he is worried that he will be exposed. Then Nina arrives at the shop where she works and tells her manager that she spent last night at the police station, but her manager does not believe her and tells her that she will stay in an extra shift today because he worked 2 shifts yesterday and then leaves. At night, Isabella goes to Miguel's apartment and knocks on the door, but Miguel decides not to meet her because he won't be able to face Isabella after what happened to Alice. After Nina finishes her work, Miguel passes her in his car, and since Nina is skilled in hacking devices, she is asked to hack into Sandro's laptop. And indeed, after several hours, Nina succeeds in doing so, and Miguel gets a list of people in Sandro's party, and it turns out that they are all involved with him in embezzling health funds. Miguel decides to kill all these officials, prepares his weapons, and decides to wear the mask he was wearing when he killed Sandro, so that this mask becomes his hallmark and makes his garage his headquarters. He goes to the first person in the party and throws him off the balcony, then kills the second person in his car, kills the third person while preparing his stolen money, and Miguel manages to get rid of them all without anyone seeing him. And then, the news talks about the masked person who killed politicians, and they call him the Oikner, and they write about him, that he killed all these people without leaving any trace. And of course, she is the only one who knows the true identity of the Oikner, which is Nina. After that, Miguel goes to work normally, and the police chief gathers all the officers because he is angry that they can't catch the Oikner and wonders how one person could do all this, that the city dwellers will feel dangerous and that they will look careless and weak. At night, Miguel goes to meet Nina in the shop where she works and asks her to help him with a new task to get rid of other corrupt people. But Nina tells him that she agreed to help him in order to take his daughter's right, but she does not agree with the way he fights crime and insists that there are other ways to confront the corrupt. But Miguel manages to convince her to cooperate with him to get rid of Gomez, because he is the businessman who finances corrupt politicians, and she asks him in return to help her smuggle her mother from prison, because her mother is imprisoned because of the demonstrations. The next day, Nina goes to visit her mother in prison and asks her to hold on to hope, because she will get her out soon. After that, Nina gives Miguel a device to communicate through and tells him that Gomez will meet an important person in a certain building, and once he breaks into the building, she will be able to hack and disable the cameras. She explains to him how he will move inside the building until he reaches Gomez, and at the same time, Eduardo is in the police department, analyzing the movements and methods of the Oikner, and comes to the conclusion that he is most likely a police officer, and expects that his next goal will be Gomez. Then, Miguel enters the building, and Nina is in contact with him, penetrates the cameras, and tells him that the road ahead of him is safe, and informs him that Gomez has arrived, and that the person he will meet is a minister named Marta. As Miguel moves inside the building, she tells him when to hide so that no one sees him, and Marta enters to meet Gomez at the restaurant and offers her a bribe. Meanwhile, Eduardo arrives at the building, sending a message to Miguel telling him that the Oikner's next target is Gomez. Nina sees the arrival of Eduardo through the cameras and tries to warn Miguel, but communication between them is cut off. Eduardo manages to reach Miguel and points his weapon towards him, but Miguel escapes quickly, and Eduardo chases him and manages to be shot, but Miguel manages to escape. After that, Nina goes to Miguel's garage and finds that he was shot in his shoulder, and his injury was serious, so she tries to convince him to go to the hospital. But he refuses for fear of revealing his order and is arrested, and relies on Nina in treating his wound, while he focuses his gaze on Gomez's image and is determined to get rid of him. But Nina asks him to rest a little because he will not be able to carry out his tasks while he is injured. The next day, the police chief named Squera receives a call from Gomez's right hand, Oliveira, and it turns out that the police chief is a corrupt person and receives bribes from Gomez. Oliveira tells him that Gomez is worried about the Oikner because he was able to enter the building easily and he obviously has a partner because all the cameras were hacked. After that, Miguel and Eduardo and the Special Operations team meet to discuss the Oikner's case, but Squaria steps in and tells them that the case is closed because there is not enough evidence. Then Miguel and Eduardo go to practice shooting together and talk about why police officers learn to shoot. Miguel sees that they learn this to kill the bad guys, while Eduardo disagrees with him and confirms that the goal is to defend and protect people. Eduardo is surprised by Miguel's opinion, after which Miguel decides to get rid of Gomez. At the same time, Gomez is having dinner at his house with his son and some important politicians, and they make plans to support Intro in his candidacy for president. But Intro was not comfortable with the idea of becoming president, and sees himself unprepared and feels afraid of this responsibility, so he leaves the meeting. His mother meets him and tries to reassure him, tells her that he can't take responsibility for himself, and Gomez intervenes and tries to convince him to run, and tells him that he knows that he was cruel to him, and that they don't spend enough time together because of work. Meanwhile, Miguel is standing on a roof near them, and he has prepared his rifle to kill Gomez, but the bullet accidentally hits Intro. Gomez collapses on his son and loses control, while Miguel feels upset because he made a mistake, and he had a chance to kill Gomez, but he did not because he sympathized with him after losing his son, and decided not to be so merciless. After that, the news announces that Intro dies of a cardiac arrest, and Gomez uses his son's death to his advantage, gets people's sympathy, and decides to run for president instead. Miguel is angry because Gomez took advantage of what happened, while Oliveira takes on the task of knowing the identity of the hacker who helps the Oikner and manages to locate him, and reaches the shop where Nina works, but thinks that the shop manager is the hacker, so he kills him without hesitation. After a while, Nina arrives at the store and is shocked when she sees her manager killed by a bullet, and realizes that she has caused the death of an innocent person, and feels that it is the turn to come to her. So she leaves the place and heads to Miguel, while Eduardo goes to meet Isabella, Miguel's ex-wife. He asks her about Miguel's strange disappearance recently, but Isabella tells him that she also no longer sees Miguel and does not know where he is. Nina reaches Miguel and hugs him and tells him what happened, but unless they know that the Oikner's identity has also been exposed, and a group of mercenaries comes to kill them. Miguel and Nina agree, open fire on them. Miguel tries to protect Nina and orders her to escape immediately, exchanges fire with the mercenaries, appears with his mask and kills them all. Miguel thinks he is safe, but it turns out that there is a soldier who was hiding and appears in the place. So Miguel is forced to hide because his ammunition has run out. Then he enters a hand-to-hand combat with him, and Miguel manages to overcome him with his strong fighting skills and takes a gun from the ground and kills him. Oliveira arrives because he was surprised that his men did not return, and he manages to find Nina and holds her hostage. Miguel points his gun at him and orders him to leave Nina, and Oliveira says to him, "Do you think you will get away with us after you kill Intro?" He tells him that he will leave Nina on the condition that he kills a woman named Julia because she is a presidential candidate against Gomez, and if he does not carry out the mission, he will not see Nina again in his life. In the next scene, the police arrive at the scene after a report from the neighbors about the shooting, and Eduardo looks at the scene of the crime and finds Miguel's phone. He is shocked because he understands that Miguel is involved in the case, and he meets Isabella and tells her that Miguel is the Oikner. After that, a press debate is held between candidates Julia and Gomez, and the police search and secure the hall before the meeting. At night, Miguel arrives at the scene to kill Julia, attacks his fellow officers. He meets on his way and loses consciousness, then breaks into the place where the debate will be held. At the same time, Nina is detained by Oliveira, watching the debate together, while Eduardo tries to communicate with one of his colleagues but does not respond, so he decides to go to check on him. Miguel is about to kill Julia, but Eduardo stops him at the last minute, and they get into a fight, and neither of them wanted to hurt the other badly because they are friends. In the end, Eduardo falls and points his weapon towards Miguel, asking him to take off the mask because he knew him. Miguel responds and takes off the mask, justifying his actions by saying that he had to kill the corrupt because their corruption caused the death of many, and thus that he protects people. But Eduardo replies that he is no different from the corrupt because he kills and does not abide by the law, and that what he does will not bring his daughter back, nor will it lead to a result. Miguel says he has to complete the task so that Nina does not die. He takes the gun and prepares to shoot, but Eduardo refuses to let him kill anyone. After Miguel shoots, the live broadcast is stopped, and Oliveira calls his men to find out what happened. And Nina takes advantage of his busyness and attacks him with a piece of glass. And he tries to reach his weapon but precedes him and kills him, then flees from the place. Eduardo captures Miguel, and his colleagues are shocked when they discover that he is the killer. After that, Isabella comes to meet Miguel and asks him why he did all this, and tells him that if Alice were alive, she would not have agreed to what he did, and that she was proud of him because he protects people. Isabella is disappointed, and tells him that it's good that Alice died until you don't see what he became. Then she leaves him and leaves. It is clear that Julia was not shot dead by Miguel because Eduardo prevented him at the last minute, and the bullet did not hit her. People begin to wonder if Julia is also corrupt, because all the victims of the Oikna were corrupt, and her popularity declines. And Gomez advances in the election with a larger number of votes. Miguel goes to prison, and during his imprisonment, he was training to be ready when he comes out and manages to take revenge, and is shocked to learn that Gomez won the election and became president of Brazil. After that, Miguel is taken to the interrogation room, and one of his colleagues named Diaz hits him in the stomach hard. And Square tells him that there are already corrupt people who are not worth living, but Miguel fights in the wrong side and cannot stand against them alone. Miguel understands that Square is also corrupt and receives bribes from Gomez, and before he leaves, he orders Square Diaz to kill Miguel after he empties the police station from everyone so that no one finds out. Indeed, Diaz tries to kill him, but Miguel manages to stop him, clash with him and strangle him with handcuffs until he kills him. Then Miguel enters the police station, takes a large amount of weapons and ammunition, recovers his uniform and mask, sets off in the police car until he reaches the building where Gomez is, kills all his men in the garage, gets rid of everyone who stands in his way without mercy, and moves inside the building without anyone feeling him. Gomez hears the sound of shooting and worries, and Miguel manages to kill the last guard behind the door, and Gomez fires 6 bullets at Miguel. But Miguel is not affected and advances towards him, determined to kill him whatever the obstacles. Gomez tries to distract him with words until he refills his weapon, but Miguel takes off the mask and notices it, so he rushes to kill him. Suddenly, Gomez's men appear behind him, but Miguel had prepared his plan in advance and put bombs in the garage, blowing up the entire building. Eduardo sees the explosion and is shocked, and realizes that Miguel sacrificed his life so that a corrupt person does not rule Brazil. Isabella is also shocked by his death, while Nina admires what he did, as he managed to achieve his goal and killed many corrupt people. The next day, workers examine the destroyed building and find the mask of the Oikna, but strangely, they don't find any trace of his body. In the last scene, someone appears wearing the same mask and carrying out a new task, to make it clear that Miguel survived the explosion in some way. And here the events of the film end. Don't forget to like if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of videos and you want it to continue.